Well, hello, everybody. This is Tim Lee.
And I'm Sean Duhamel from the Mass Retirees Association.
And I'm so proud that we are able to sit down and have a conversation. As many of you know, the power of the Texas Retired Teachers Association and the Mass Retirees helped build what may have been one of the greatest coalitions in the history of advocacy for public workers. When we, a year ago this month, really started to see action being taken by the Congress ultimately to repeal the WEP and the GPO. And so Sean and I are in Washington this week for a healthcare policy conference, but we wanted to take a few minutes to sit down with all of you and share some of our thoughts on this now historic one-year anniversary of the repeal of the WEP and the GPO. So Sean, I know we worked real hard on this issue, and we want to make sure that our members have an opportunity to also reflect on it. So I know we would encourage people to make any comments that they would like to have if we post this on social media. But for you, what do you think the repeal has meant and really how it's impacted the workers in Massachusetts, the workers and the retirees?
Well, first of all, Tim, thank you for suggesting that we record this video to commemorate the one-year anniversary of H.R. 82, which became, of course, the Social Security Fairness Act. On November 12th, it will be 1 year since the House of Representatives overwhelmingly passed the full repeal of WEP and GPO. It took 41 years from the time that President Reagan signed the Social Security Reform Act into law back in 1983. Collectively, our associations, along with many others across the country, continually fought to repeal WEP and GPO. Now, one of the questions we obviously get over and over again, I know you and I have talked about this, is how did it happen? But before we get into the details of that, the impact for our members and your members have quite honestly been indescribable. The stories that I've heard from my members, and I'm sure you've heard the exact same type of stories of just how life-changing, life-transforming the repeal of WEP and GPO have truly been. And as important as we knew that this would be to all of our members, just how important it is in your day-to-day lives, it's really, I can't put words to it to really adequately describe just how much it means to our members. Now, in Massachusetts, we've had approximately 120,000 Massachusetts residents benefit from repeal of WEP and GPO. The retroactive payments alone are over $900 million in just Massachusetts. So that's been life-changing for our members. It's been a tremendous influx of economic activity into our state. And I know Texas, you have even a larger number of retirees that are impacted. So the economic benefit in just our two states has been tremendous, never mind the other 48 states. But it's, again, I can't put words to describe just how important this has been to our members, and to have played a role in helping to get this done has really been the honor of a lifetime.
Yeah, great comment. Over $2 billion has been paid back into Texas. It's really been a boost to the economy, but as you said, the most rewarding part that I've heard is over and over again, I've had a retiree tell me that they had a job in their retirement years, well into their 80s, and as soon as they saw that their benefits were restored, they were able to stop working.
Yep.
It's the sense of fairness that a lot of people also really felt like was an important win for them, that they finally were being treated fairly like any other worker who is paying into Social Security. As you and I both know, public workers, they don't get paid a lot for the work that they do. And a lot of times they take on second and third jobs just to make ends meet. And so they felt like they were really being treated unfairly with their Social Security benefits being reduced. So yeah, I mean, it's life-changing, as you said. It's about the best way to describe it. We have a lot of happy members. We were able to talk to the first retirement class of 2025, folks that never will be impacted by the WEP and the GPO. Mm-hmm. That's a tremendous sensation. So yeah, I would agree that it is life-changing, and it is the honor of a lifetime to be able to say that we had a part to play, and all of us together had that part to play. So let's go back and reflect just a little bit on kind of what happened. Why were we able to catch lightning? How did this happen? So you and I were here on the ground. Talk to me about what you remember as to how this happened.
Well, I think it starts with all of you. Without the support of our collective members and other retirees across the country over many years of just persevering, not giving up, fighting for, as Tim said, for just basic fairness. You paid for a benefit, your spouse paid for a benefit that was being taken away from you, money that you depended on in your retirement. And it was a tremendous broken promise as far as we were concerned. And that's why our organizations never gave up on this. And we stayed at it during a period of time, really from, say, 2010 up until 2022, 2023, when at times it really seemed like, Tim, you and I were really the only ones talking about this anymore. And I know from master retirees that some of you had given up. A small number had given up. We would get notes back with our annual dues renewal when members were renewing their membership with us saying, you know what, I can't afford my membership anymore, and maybe I'll think about rejoining when you repeal WEP and GPO. And I understand where folks were coming from, but thankfully, the majority of our collective members never gave up on this. Once momentum started, after the pandemic, more retirees, I think social media played a big role in educating and empowering retirees all across the country to get personally involved. And that's really, things really started to pick up around that point. But I believe the key to all of this is advocacy from you, not just from us, your paid representatives, but from our membership as well. And you should all be very proud of the role that you personally played in helping to get this done.
Yeah. The ability for all of you to be engaged at multiple levels. Some of you went to Congress with us, walked the hall. Some of you testified in front of a congressional panel. Some of you have that personal relationship with a member of Congress or a U.S. senator. Some of you wrote those letters. Many of you wrote the letters, watched the videos, made comments on videos, went to social media, became a part of a larger coalition of voices through social media and what was going on. And I truly believe that that moment was the moment. I mean, it was painful to get there. And many times you and I left this town absolutely just deflated that we got so close from time to time to try to move something, and it didn't go. And ultimately, the reason was that Congress was going to repeal it. And we didn't know that at the time. And I would be lying to say that there weren't moments where my hope wasn't thin on the ground as well, just like our members. But we were always pumped back up. We came back to fight the fight because our organizations did not give up. Our leaders did not give up. And I think about the folks that I know in your organization, and you've met folks in my organization, and we stayed and we fought. And so there were some moments during that 3-month period of time between October of 24 until the final vote taken in December. And I remember kind of looking back at November 12th, that was the day that Congress actually voted 327 to 75 for repeal.
Yeah.
And prior to that, there were some actions that were an attempt to slow it down. But I do want to credit the folks in the U.S. House at the time, and even thinking about who was in charge. As you and I talked about, the Speaker of the House is his deceased now father was a firefighter, and I think that even had a role to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
This. I really want to credit and thank our first responders, the folks in the firefighter community and in the police community, really banded together and try to help move that as well. I know you're connected to those folks a little bit, so you want to say anything about them?
Yeah, and Tim, you're absolutely right. The stars aligned. Beyond the relentless advocacy, there were several other factors that came to be over the past 18 months leading up to this that really made a difference. And if you changed any one piece of that puzzle, as Tim and I were just talking before we began to record this video, One piece of this, if it had been different, I think unfortunately we'd be having a very different conversation right now where this would not have passed. But in terms of the national public safety unions and the teachers, to be honest, of coming together and putting their resources behind this in a way that had really never happened before. And that begins with the IAFF and my good friend Ed Kelly from Boston, who's the general president of the IAFF, along with Patrick Yose from the Fraternal Order of Police. Both Edzo and Patrick coming out of states that are non-Social Security states, that all of their local members, and whether it be in Louisiana or Massachusetts, were affected by either WEP or GPO, and in some cases both. They had a particular understanding, a unique understanding of WEP and GPO that really didn't exist before. And when they became leaders of their respective unions and made these issues a priority for their national unions, part of their platform, that was game-changing. AFT, under the leadership of Randy Weingarten, same thing. She directed the AFT to stand with this, as well as many of the other, if not all of the other public employee unions, the railroad workers, the postal workers. There are pockets of public employees and now public retirees spread throughout the country who were impacted by WEP and GPO. The total population was over 3 million people were impacted, but that made a major difference. But really what broke the logjam last year was the action of two members of Congress, Abigail Spanberger from Virginia, who's now governor-elect, along with Congressman Garrett Graves, Republican from Louisiana. And Tim, why don't you talk a little bit about their actions and them sticking to their guns and forcing that bill out that made all the difference in the world?
Yeah, I think probably one of the most significant not going to take no for an answer moments is when Garrett Graves and Abigail Spanberger really did the discharge petition. They launched the initiative to get the signatures, and that happened pretty quickly. I remember talking to members of Congress because I have a very conservative member of Congress from Texas who called me and said, hey, I really think this is something I want to jump on, and that is Lance Gooden, that you know very well.
Yep.
Lance has been with us the entire time, and he jumped on signing that discharge petition. It was a real effort to be bipartisan. Of course, as you said, at the time, Congresswoman Spanberger, Democrat, and Garrett Graves, a Republican member from Louisiana, really worked hard to do something that had not been done before. They wouldn't take no for an answer. They pushed leadership. They moved us out of the logjam that was the committee process. They would not accept any actions to derail it, and they got the signatures needed to move us to the top of the list and actually get a vote by the U.S. Congress, the first time in history.
In 41 years, it never come out of committee.
Unbelievable. But those two individuals, along with the 116 or 18 other members who signed on for the discharge petition to actually take shape, those members of Congress to make it bipartisan in nature and say, yep, we stand with them, and we're demanding that leadership deal with this now. That was a very special moment. I think it was a spark that really lit a fire under all of the organizations that for years had worked on this, but maybe also, as you said earlier, had kind of taken a step back.
Yeah.
You know, the tendency was to let other states that were more aggressive on it maybe, or maybe just because of our members of Congress, Texas and Massachusetts particularly, had pushed on this for years, even what I would call in those years that we were sort of in the desert, you know, it felt like a wanderless journey that we were going nowhere. But a lot of those organizations, you know, came back into it in that moment. And that additional push and firepower, a game changer, as we pushed this thing and saw it get pushed out of the House, even though there were members of Congress that on the day of the vote, and we even have one in Texas, started articulating reasons why this shouldn't occur. And even though they made their comments, the bill still passed resoundingly on November 12th of 2024 out of the U.S. House, 327 to 75. And that really pushed us into the next step. For me, I look at that next step, and it was not even a month later that on December 11th, there was a unifying, extremely special moment that occurred on Capitol Hill when there was a rally. This is now what, in my mind, will always be remembered as, I don't know what it is, it was the rain rally.
It was, yeah, there was the rally in the rain. And when we say rain, it was a monsoon. As a matter of fact, I ruined a suit and a pair of shoes. We got absolutely drenched. But you know what? I would do it again and again and again because we know what the outcome was. And that was really the turning point. Tim and I and my colleagues from Massachusetts, from the Professional Firefighters of Mass and the Mass Coalition of Police, Paul Jakes and John Nelson, we together spent the afternoon after the rally. Despite we were soaked, we visited the offices of all 13 Republican senators who had signed on to H.R. 82. First of all, to thank them for their support, but more importantly, make sure that they were unwavering in their support. Because on December 11th, we still did not know this was going to get done. And the cynic in me, my worst fear, and I think, Tim, you agree with this, is that at the goal line, we would come up short. The session would end on December 20th, and we'd have to go back to our members and say, well, we tried, but we're sorry it couldn't get done. That was our worst fear, to be so close. But meeting with Republican senators, and it was Senator Scott from Florida who we met with, that really changed how I looked at this and thought we had a real opportunity to get this done. When I introduced myself to him and I said where I'm from, I said, Senator, I have a lot of Massachusetts retirees in your state. And he said, Sean, I know you do because everywhere I go, I hear from them on this issue. That's why I support the bill, and that's why I'm going to do everything I can to get this thing passed. And we left that meeting thinking, okay, we have a shot at this. But it really wasn't until, the early morning hours of December 21st, when this was the last issue that the U.S. Senate voted on and sent it to President Biden for his signature. And I know we're all waiting with bated breath for that gavel to drop and have this be done.
Yeah, we have so many different moments and stories that we could share. I mean, even the 24 hours before the vote in the Senate, it was getting to be a little squishy about what may turn out. There were plenty of stories from behind the scenes work that done by many organizations that were all unified in the final repeal. There were so many things that were happening at the time, but ultimately, what felt like the 11th hour, which really it was. I mean, it was the second to the last thing that was going to be done before the U.S. Senate left. I mean, there were moments in the day that people were thinking that they were just going to vote on a continuing resolution to keep the government open at that time, and then everybody would be gone. They wouldn't have the votes necessary to pass it. So many different things that were going on. And from my state, I want to thank, my friends at ATPE. We really worked hard with those folks to stay, in touch with our senators, and we were able to win the support with John Cornyn, who helped quite a little bit get that accomplished. We didn't win everybody, but we won what we needed to win in order to win the day. January 5th rolls around, the President of the United States signs the bill, and as I tell folks when I go out and talk about it, we saw him sign it. We agree. All of this controversy about pins and all the other sort of thing, sat at the table, surrounded by friends and colleagues, people who have worked on this for years, congressional members, leaders, bipartisan in nature, and we were in the East Room of the White House, and he signed the bill into law. And at that moment, the sense of pride that I have in our members for the work that they did, not giving up, for pursuing it to the very end, the stories that they shared with the people that they knew who were no longer with us, who worked on this for years, to get that across the finish line for all of the folks, what an honor, to be there.
It was an incredible experience, and I think really surreal. I had personally worked on this issue for 30 years. I have been the point person for mass retirees on this issue since I joined the association back in December of 1994. And it had always been a dream that one day we would be successful in getting this done. And how wonderful would it be at that time to get an invitation to the White House, to watch the president sign it into law, and it had always been a distant dream. But to actually have been able to get that done and share that experience with my good friend Tim Lee, you know, to use the term I already said, it was an honor of a lifetime to represent all of my members at that meeting and have the opportunity then to speak with the president, thank him for his support in getting this done. It was just a wonderful experience. But I think now, Tim, we're getting the same question from our members of what's next. We had this tremendous victory. Our members have been made whole going forward. It would have been great if we could have accomplished this a long time ago. But as they say, all's well that ends well, but the fight's not over. And I think us being here at this particular conference and the issues that we have been talking about the last few days, to me, that's front and center of what's next.
Yeah, the conference we're attending is the Public Sector Healthcare Roundtable. Many of you watching this video participate in a statewide healthcare plan. My retirees have something called TRS care for our retired school employees, and I know that y'all have retired healthcare benefits in Massachusetts. And a lot of those plans are going to be subject to potential cost-cutting measures that the federal government is talking about. We have pressures from the private sector, the industry, healthcare providers, the consolidation of what's happening with our hospital systems, doctors joining hospital systems. The idea of private practice is changing. I mean, there's so biologic drugs. There's so many different things that are happening. That's why it's vital that we remain strong. And sometimes what's next is being in the moment to protect what we have, knowing where those trends are going. And I've learned a great deal at this conversation, this conference, and that conversation about healthcare is going to continue. The takeaway for me, after all is said and done and kind of where we sit today, is that, as you said earlier, the fight is not over.
No.
There is a moment that we're living in right now where there is a lot of change happening. There are many things that we need to continue to do. And my biggest request to all of our members, potential members, those of you that may watch this video from other states that are not in Massachusetts or Texas, I'm asking that you all belong to an organization and add your voice to the fight. And so that we will be ready.
Oh, absolutely. The great lesson that was learned through the success of the Fairness Act passing is that by coming together, working together, we can accomplish tremendous things. Now, we got to get lucky along the way, but luck only comes if you're in the game. You have to have a seat at the table. And I think that our success collectively has earned us a seat at the table, not just in our respective states, but nationally as well. But none of us can do this alone. We can't, by ourselves in Massachusetts, change national healthcare policy. We need folks like Tim Lee and his members working with us. Now, just yesterday, while here in Washington, I had the opportunity to meet with the firefighters, and I know they are just as engaged on this issue as we are. And it's that collective work going forward that's going to make a difference. But make no mistake, your healthcare benefits are under threat. If you're a Mass Retirees member, you've heard me talk about this for the better part of the last 3 years. We have an affordability crisis when it comes to healthcare. But one of the things I've learned over the last few days is that we are now also entering a quality crisis, or a crisis of quality when it comes to your healthcare benefits. Now, I would argue that in Massachusetts, we have some of the best doctors and hospitals anywhere in the world. And we want to make sure that that remains the case, but most importantly, that you continue to have access to those tremendous life-saving medical facilities when you need them and when your family members need them. And that's our next immediate mission, is to tackle healthcare and to protect your benefits and control, hopefully gain some control over these continual cost increases. But we have to do this together. We need you with us. The fight's going to go on, and we could spend all day talking about other issues, whether it's Social Security reform in the future, or what has to happen with Medicare, and a whole host of other issues that are of direct importance to all of you as public retirees. But today, our biggest message is we're very grateful for all of your support in helping us get get to where we are. We have a lot to celebrate looking back over the past year and the benefits that our collective work has brought to our membership, but that fight has to continue.
Yeah, and as we wrap up, I think those are words of wisdom that all of us can live by. I think about what has changed in 41 years, how this town has changed, how information sharing has changed, how, frankly, people belonging to organizations has changed, and it is a threat. You know, I think if we are not promoting mass retirees and Texas Retired Teachers Association and all the other organizations, there will be a void that is going to be filled by some group or a group of people that will try to take away what we have. And so there are dangers ahead. The WEP and the GPO largely happened because people didn't see exactly what was going on at the time that it was going on. And the lessons that we've all learned from that is that we have to be engaged.
Correct.
We cannot let any of this just slip on by, and we have to be strong. And so my request again to all of you is that you'll continue to be a part of our organizations, to allow us to say to each of you, thank you. If you're watching this video, you had a part to play. And I know that you're going to have a part to play as we go forward into the future. So please continue to share your voice, be a part of us. Be a part of this collective group of folks trying to make sure your retirement is secure for healthcare, Social Security, the pensions that you've earned, but also for all of the people that are still actively employed, who are going out to work in that classroom, who are showing up to work in that county building, who are showing up to work in that state building, who are rushing into the fire, who are showing up to protect us from folks when things don't go the way that we might like, and we need to be protected from what's going on. These people put their lives at risk every day, and we need to be thankful for our public servants and what they do, and try to protect their future too. Sean, take us out with your last words.
Well, Tim, I think that's a great way to wrap it up. You know, I know that our mission, collective mission, is to protect our members. You know, you earn the right to a secure, reliable, and enjoyable retirement. I know, just kind of going full circle here, the feedback that we have received from all of you who benefited from the Fairness Act, and the stories that you've shared of, you know, finally being able to go to bed at night without being worried about paying your bills. And we want to make sure that, you know, yes, we were able to restore retirement income for you, but we want to make sure that that's not going right back out of your wallet to pay for increasingly expensive healthcare costs on top of everything else that's really squeezing the ability of Americans to manage day to day and just get by with the essentials. So we're going to continue to do our part. We need you with us. We need strong organizations. But thank you so much for the support that you give us every single day to do this work on your behalf. Wish you all well for the holiday season that's about to be upon us. And we'll see you all again real soon. Bye-bye from Massachusetts.
Bye from Texas. Thanks, everybody.